A common complaint surrounding The Flash is that the show has too many speedsters, and I definitely agreed with that statement during Season 3, because you had The Flash, you had Sabotage, you had Jesse Quick and Kid Flash and Jay Garrick. It was a little crowded in terms of speedsters. There was also the rival at the beginning, a little too many. But I also think the showrunners took the complaint a little bit too close to heart. With Season 4, the only speedster on the show who is a main character is Bart Allen. There are other characters like Jesse Quick and Jay Garrick who have both appeared one time, and then also Kid Flash, who appeared for, I think, 3 episodes, and then left the show for Legends of Tomorrow. The main villain is not a speedster. Like I said, Wally left to join the Legends, and no other speedster has been introduced in the season so far. And I definitely think the show should introduce another speedster or 2 in Season 5, whether it be a hero or a villain. For this list, I will be going over characters, only characters who have access to the Speed Force, or the negative Speed Force, so characters like Shazam, Superman, or Wonder Woman are not eligible for this list. So with that in mind, here are the top 5 speedsters who should appear on The Flash in Season 5 or any other future season to come. Number 5 is Sabotage. Now I know what you're thinking, we've already seen Sabotage, he was the main villain of Season 3, and yes, technically you would be right, but that was not the real Sabotage. That was the blue future Bart Allen, who was a different character from the comics. He appeared in the New 52 a long time after the original Sabotage appeared, and the only reason they used the Sabotage name in Season 3 was for the twist, which kind of ruined the season. It came way too late in the season, and that's really the only thing. Like, once you were watching that and you wanted to know who was Sabotage, you didn't care about anything else, which made it ruin the season. So calling that guy Sabotage effectively made Season 3 worse. They could have just called him Bart Allen from the future like he was in the comics in the New 52. I will admit, what they did to Sabotage in Season 3, they changed his design, they changed his origin story, they changed his character completely. It made him a little bit more interesting, but that's only because they stole a different character's story, which makes me feel like if they focus on the old Sabotage, who was a Cold War pilot, which they can just update to a more modern war, and make him a pilot, and he was struck by lightning, and because of that he got powers, speed powers, and he became obsessed with speed and started calling himself Sabotage. They could use that as an episode or 2 on The Flash. They could use him as a recurring villain. They just gonna update the costume, make it look similar to the comics, but with added stuff to it, not completely different like the one in Season 3, which looked a lot more like the New 52 future Bart Allen than it did Sabotage, like I said. So if they just update his costume and update which war he was in, that could be a really cool recurring speedster villain in Season 5 or any other future season in the rest of the show. Number 4 is Johnny Quick. In the comics, there have been 2 major versions of the Johnny Quick character. The Earth 2 version named Johnny Chambers, who is the father of Jesse Chambers, aka Jesse Quick, and the Earth 3 version named Jonathan Allen, who is presumably the doppelganger of Bart Allen and a member of the crime syndicate. And the version I'm going for in this list is the Earth 3 version, Jonathan Allen. The reason the Earth 2 version is not on the list is because he was basically replaced by Harry Wells as the father of Jesse Quick on The Flash, so there would be no reason to introducing him onto the show. Also, he's a pretty boring character, but Jonathan Allen is on the list mainly because he's a member of the Crime Syndicate, and it would be pretty interesting seeing the Crime Syndicate versions of the Arrowverse, even though I guess we've already seen them, or the same idea during Crisis on Earth X, but really the only character who did not get a doppelganger from Earth X, a evil doppelganger from Earth X, is the Flash, which is why I think Johnny Quick should be a pretty interesting addition to the show. Not as a main villain or anything, but as a recurring villain or one of the villains in the next crossover. Number 3 is Bart Allen, aka Impulse. Bart Allen in the comics is the grandson of Bart Allen and Iris West, and with Iris and Barry getting married pretty recently, what better time than now to introduce their grandson. In the comics, he came back in time in order to be trained by Wally West to control his speed. Wally West, he was trained by Wally West because Wally was the Flash at the time, but a much more interesting version of this story was what they did on Young Justice, which was that he went back in time to save Barry from dying. And by the way, Barry dying would not change Bart being born, because he died like the day after Bart's parents were conceived, so that's how they explained that on the show. But the main reason he came back in time was to stop Blue Beetle from taking over the world in the future and becoming a villain, which is something they should adapt to the show. I'm not saying necessarily with Blue Beetle, although That would be really cool. What I'm saying is that they should adapt the thing where he goes back in time in order to save Barry. They should adapt that to the show. What they should do is on The Flash Season 5, have like a 2-episode arc where Bart Allen comes back in time to help Barry defeat like this huge villain, maybe even one of the 2 villains that preceded Bart on this list, and for some reason he sticks around for a while, either becoming a series regular for the rest of the show, or just sticking around until the end of the season and then going back to the future, or maybe spinning off into his own show, or to a different show with Blue Beetle, if Blue Beetle does appear, which again would be awesome. After that, becoming a recurring character. Either way, Bart Allen is one of those characters who has yet to show up on the show, but will 100% eventually show up any season. Number 2 is August Hart, aka Godspeed. Godspeed is probably the most requested character from the comics to be a main villain on The Flash in any season, specifically Season 5, and along with Impulse is definitely the most requested speedster to appear, and for good reason. Godspeed looks so cool that he became a fan favorite character from the very first time he was revealed, even before his comic book debut, and yeah, he looks really cool, but beyond that, he's an incredibly interesting character. August Hart was Barry Allen's friend and co-worker when he was struck by lightning during the Speed Force storm, which, by the way, that Speed Force storm was also included in the show in the Season 3 finale, which led people to speculate that he will be the Season 4 main villain, which I think would have been a missed opportunity to make him a actual good guy who got superpowers from the Speed Force storm, and it was a recurring character up till Season 5, where it becomes a series regular and becomes a villain like near the mid-season finale. I think that was a pretty missed opportunity, but who knows, maybe they're going to use that same storyline in Season 5 into a more condensed bunch of episodes. After that, though, after he gets struck by lightning, he gets access to the Speed Force, as most DC characters who get struck by lightning do, and he uses his newfound speed to fight crime under the name Godspeed. But the way he goes about fighting crime is a little too brutal for Barry, because he kills people, and he was also going to kill the Reverse Flash for Barry, so he wasn't really a villain. He was more of a anti-hero, which makes him more of an interesting character, but because he was a little too brutal for Barry, Barry sets out to stop Godspeed once and for all. I just made a makeshift synopsis for the Rebirth comic book. You should read it, though. It's pretty good, and Godspeed is a pretty great villain in that comic book, and that story, in my opinion, is a pretty interesting and also original story for a villain. And like I said, he's more of an anti-hero than a villain, but they can definitely make him a villain. I mean, they made Deathstroke, who is also kind of more of an anti-hero than a villain, a full-on villain in Season 2 of Arrow, and then made him an anti-hero later, so they could definitely do the same thing with Godspeed as the Season 5 main villain. Before I get to number 1, I'm going to go over 2 honorable mentions, and those are, first, the Daniel West Reverse Flash, just because his costume looks so damn cool, and I would love to see that costume in live action, and also because he has a cool connection to Wally West, or at least the new 52 version of Wally West, which is the version on the show. And the second thing isn't really a new speedster, but it's the Black Flash version of Barry, or the Barry Allen version of the Black Flash, which was introduced in the new 52. I don't really remember when. I think in Darkseid War, Barry Allen became Black Flash for a very brief period of time, but he just looks so cool, and I would love to see that adapted to the show for like one episode, him becoming Black Flash. That would be really cool. But moving on to number 1. Similarly to number 5, number 1 is a character who shares the same exact name as a character who has already appeared on the show and is also a speedster, just like that character. But in the difference between number 1 and 5 is number 1's character is a superior version than the one that's on the show, and the number 1 spot goes to Wally West, aka Kid Flash. The Wally West I'm talking about for this list is the cousin of the Wally West that the Arrowverse Wally West is based off of, better known as the New 52 Wally West, who is a far inferior character to the original and who is far less iconic. This version of Wally West was the main version of the Flash during my childhood, and because of that, and also the Justice League animated series as well as the Young Justice, he became my favorite superhero for a while. Until this day, he's one of my favorites, probably my favorite, I'm not really sure. Which is why I was very, very disappointed when the character was just thrown to the side when the New 52 restarted the universe and was replaced But then the Flash TV show came out, and a year later, during the Season 2 mid-season finale, they introduced Wally West to the show, and I was pretty disappointed because they based the character off of the New 52 version rather than the pre-New 52 version in personality and looks. But since Wally West left the show, left the Flash, and became a series regular on the Legends of Tomorrow, what better time to introduce this version of Wally West, whether he's from a different Earth or is actually Wally and Iris's cousin and also Joe's nephew. Either way, I want to see this version of Wally West on The Flash in future seasons, and I wanted to see him on The Flash since the beginning of the series, and we still have not. But anyway, let me know what you thought about my list in the comments down below, and let me know what your own list is in the comments down below. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter, link is in the description, or click the notification icon for better updates for my videos because YouTube is not working at the moment. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you liked this video. Thanks for watching.